But, we did flip the two.
That's what it is. I mean, and so like it wasn't looking good when we signed off, but it had only been an hour. And then by the time I went to sleep last night, Warnock had already gone ahead. I don't think they had called it. When I woke up this morning, they called the Warnock seat. So right now it's 49-50. Some news outlets like BuzzFeed and Vox have already called Ossoff as the winner over Perdue. So it'll be a 50-50 Democrats and Republicans split, with Kamala Harris being the tie-breaking vote.
This is the real chance now. Once we get this done, and then the pressure's going to be on getting it through. What did it pass last time? Was it the Senate or the House?
It's passed the House because the House was controlled by Democrats. However, we can do the math on it right now and say, well, 97% of the Democrats will vote in favor of it, and 97% of the Republicans will vote against it. What does that come down to? Then, if so,
comes down to a vote.
Basically washed. Is it going to come down to Kamala? Because Kamala's she was a sponsor of the M.O.R.E Act. That would be freaking epic if she's the deciding vote that votes for her own bill as the president of the Senate, and then it sends it to Joe Biden's desk. And that's when you're going to really start to see a lot of that social equity aspect that is not only in the M.O.R.E Act, but also in various other state laws. It'll be, I don't know. Like, what are you giving the odds that the Democrats pass the M.O.R.E Act in the next 2 years?
They better pass it, or else,
voters are going to be pissed.
This past 4 years have proven that. Actually, this past 3 months have proven that Americans, we actually tired of people's, we don't want to be so divisive all the time. We don't, there was no, the politics, man, watching it today, it's all dog and pony show. But the fact that these guys,
there was politics today that came out as well. Merrick Garland today was named as not Obama's Supreme Court pick, but Obama's Supreme Court pick Merrick Garland is Joe Biden's Attorney General. That was named hours before the, I guess we can call them, tyrants or fascists that have stormed to the level, the Capitol are there. But what did Merrick Garland say in a 2012 LA Times story where he was on a federal 3-judge panel hearing an appeal by the Americans for Safe Access over whether the DEA should reschedule cannabis?
He wanted to wait till the scientists, to hear from the scientists.
Yeah, don't we have to defer to their judgment on what the medical studies show? We're not scientists, they are. But that implies that the DEA is scientists, which is just so way off. The DEA is not scientists.
But we'll have one next week, and we can ask some pretty important questions.
Oh my gosh, next week. Hopefully the coup is over by next week. And so when we have Dr. Ethan Russo on the show next week, if you have any amazing cannabis science questions that you want to get and answered from Ethan Russo, Dr. Russo, please tune in next week. We're going to have all sorts of interesting questions regarding the cannabinoids, the interplay of CBD and THC, the lesser cannabinoids, how those are created, how the terpenes are created, and then maybe we can explore and have him explain that thing that Max Simon spoke about when he was talking about his Ganjapreneur certification. The 6 various types of cannabis cannabis-like cultivars that are out there for medical use.
I saw, I was just thrifting the other day, and I saw in the expensive part of the thrift shop was somebody donated wine samples. It was called Making Sense of Wine. It was like a bunch of little tubes of wine. And that's going to be the next level for cannabis, right? Like, it's going to be little tubes of terpenes, and you can identify different aromas and whatnot.
I can't wait. Like, just like a brewery is able to do beer flights, right? You've had a beer flight at a brewery before. It's marvelous. You have like 4 or 5 little 4-ounce beers, and then these breweries are able to show off their wares, and it's delightful. Now imagine that you had 4 or 5 clean chillums, like glass, nice, and then 4 or 5 little not even a half a gram. This would be a tenth of a gram. So matchstick size heads, enough for a chillum, a personal.
Sure. Like little tokes.
Yeah. Like the taste, you could have weed flights, and it's let's compare this grapefruit next to some Skittles or next to some Jack Air.
Well, and then you get one of our local rags here, Northwest Leaf. They do terpenes and tannins, with wines and weed, or beer and weed. It's a pretty great issue, I think.
See, that's really the nice stuff that's going to be happening, especially more and more now that the Democrats have taken control over the Senate. That the what do they call that? Consumption lounge license type. The consumption lounge license type is going to have a lot of fun for the consumer. Buying and consuming cannabis currently in the United States is nowhere near as enjoyable as buying and consuming alcohol because alcohol is way more socially accepted. And then also you can have commonality and camaraderie in your imbibing. I mean, like you can go to a baseball game and what do? Get a hot dog and a beer.
Well, before COVID, Puff Puff Pass was the thing too.
Yeah, but it was still like, there wasn't a place that you can go do a puff puff. I mean, you'd have to be out with your buddies or something, somewhat maybe even trying to avoid detection depending on where you're trying to enjoy that cannabis. But you didn't have like a place that you can go and like get high.
Well, once a year, Seattle Hemp Fest.
Once a year at Seattle Hemp Fest. I get that. That was cool. That was a very cloudy and hazy time. I had a great time. All right. Well, let's see how the protest is going because we still have some other news stories. Some are historic, but then it's like, well, does the stock market give a crap about this? That's how I'd really care. No, stock market doesn't care. It sold off a little bit. It was up there and now it's down here, but it's still up. And pot stocks today took off. Did you see the pot stocks?
No.
Oh man. No, they because Georgia went blue, everybody's now handicapping that the M.O.R.E Act will pass. So pot stocks are up like 10% today.
Oh, that's given. I expected like Google searches and everything to increase by at least 10, 20%, the potential of. And then once the M.O.R.E Act comes into the Senate process, oh my
gosh, think about all the views we're going to get when we do the Senate telecast.
And then if it passes, the implication is going to be huge for anybody who enjoys freedom or money.
Yeah, I like freedom and money. I do. I think a lot of people do. So then trying to figure out like with the historic context of what's happening right now, when was the last time protesters stormed the U.S. Capitol in history? And I still was just getting stuff from like Donald Trump's protesters are storming currently. And then it looks like in May of 1971, protesters shut down D.C. traffic. But then I have like a list of the 8 biggest protests in U.S. history. And then our little question or quiz for the thing could be like, all right, well, when was the last time somebody actually stormed it, though? We'll talk about that one after the 8 biggest protests in U.S. history. Number 1, the anti-nuclear march in New York City Central Park. An estimated of 1 million people. 1995, the Million Man March came in at 850,000 people. April 25th, 2004, March for Women's Lives in D.C., about 500,000 to 1.15 million people. That's a pretty big gap. I mean, like if you're talking that many people, how well are you counting? If you have a gap of 600,000 people. You see, this is like when they start saying it's an anti-war protest in biggest cities. I don't know about that. Then Million Woman March, anti-Vietnam protest in 1969, Washington, D.C., 500 to 600,000 people.
Let me add, too, that there were shots fired in the Capitol today, too.
There's shots fired in the Capitol. Hey, that brings us to the answer to our when was the last time somebody stormed the Capitol question. It appears that it was 1954, a shooting in the House chamber on March 1st, 1954. While members gathered on the House floor, 3 men and 1 woman entered the visitors' gallery chamber and quietly took their seats. All 4 belonged to a Puerto Rican nationalist party and only hours earlier had traveled to D.C., and then there was a shooting. And so it was this separatist group from Puerto Rico came in and shot some people in the Capitol. And so there's some House pages carrying a stretcher with a wounded member of Congress on it. And that was 1954. So if Miggy's reporting that there were shots fired in the Capitol.
Yeah. What is, I just don't get it, man. Like the patriotism, it's not there. Like, I don't know what these fuckers' intent is because you're not proving anything, right? This cat, Joshua Stone here, you know how we get trolled with the whatever it is.
Yeah.
This guy, socialism is terrorism. Like, what? You enjoyed your $600 check. I don't know what the fuck these people are fucking bitching about. Like, coming up, Well, you will enjoy a $1,200 check.
But if socialism is terrorism, then the cannabis industry is terrible, because like a lot of socialisms in the cannabis industry, especially like in Illinois and New Jersey or in other states where the state picks the winners and losers, not the market picks the winners and losers. And so we talk about that all the time on the show, man.
We should talk about something fun, like say edibles.
Yeah, but like let's focus on the real important thing. The real important thing is the biggest story. The Democrats look like they're going to retake the Senate, and so Kamala Harris will be the deciding vote in the Senate, and that means that there's some halcyon days of the marijuana future where there's no such thing as marijuana anymore. It's gone back to cannabis, and it's helping everybody. This week was big. This week saw Illinois have changes to its bill that didn't make it. And then it also saw we're going to get the bad news out of the way first. The South Dakota governor is behind the litigation to stop South Dakota from what the people wanted to do, legalize cannabis, both medicinally and also recreationally. So she created an executive order to authorize a lawsuit to challenge the validity of Amendment A. So, and then she's saying that it was not proper. This happens sometimes when the administration of a state isn't on board with the new law that a ballot initiative allowed. You see this, and so like people call me from South Dakota all the time. It's like, how are we going to get in the industry over there? I'm like, well,
it's the worst waiting game is what it is, because marijuana, cannabis is always going to have this opposition for no reason. Like there is no valid
we could ask our guest if there is a valid scientific reason for any of this stuff that has been the official legal policy of our government, and that South Dakota's governor wants to challenge and maintain in that jurisdiction. But it's not all bad. I mean, like, sure, the news out of South Dakota was bad, but the news out of New Jersey really isn't that bad. In New Jersey, we've done a lot of content about their types of licenses that they have. The real sticking point on that now is for individuals that are younger than the age for adult use. And so they're making sure that even if you're like a juvenile that's caught with cannabis, you'd still not face criminal liability. That's something good along those lines. But I mean, it means that they're really getting close on that.
It's a non-toxic plant.
What's that?
It's a non-toxic plant. It shouldn't even be an issue. Like, this debate is so, it's a waste of time, but unfortunately we have to do it so we can get to the point where we can go to a store or travel across state lines with a pound of sugar or whatever you want.
Yep. I tell you, but I do have some more news out of Illinois. Illinois had its session, and now another session's and so like Illinois has a veto session and like a lame duck session, and then the next day they're sworn in. So now they've been sworn in Illinois, and this is their new one, their amendment to House Bill 122. And so this one will have to it was filed yesterday. So I think they just were seated today. It may have to be refiled, but this is essentially it. What they're trying to do in Illinois is create a second lottery for applicants that achieved over an 85% score now.
But how do you know? Because the KPGA is still not transparent. Like, these
they're supposed to redo the scores. They are supposed to redo the scores. They haven't done that yet.
Okay.
It's supposed to happen.
Bullshit, dude. But I got a question for you.
It's a disaster order in Illinois. And so Illinois has this disaster order because it's closed, and JP Pritzker renewed it last week. And so that's going to go until February 8th, and we'll just see how many people get their inoculations.
What I got a question from this weekend. Somebody hit me up asking for Illinois for clones. If I had 5 clones, but they don't have THC in them, are they still counted as plants?
The definition of plants in Illinois was bad because it just says 5 cannabis plants over 5 inches. So provided the clone's more than 5 inches tall, it would count. And so we're trying to get that amended, and that's something that we'd like to see. It should be 5 mature cannabis plants, and then you would define mature cannabis plants as those that are flowering. So either male or female. I mean, so you could have some pollination, but not really. I mean,
still, 5 plants. Again, arbitrary numbers and BS people in charge.
Speaking of arbitrary numbers, how much do you think 1 gram of birthday cake costs in Illinois for recreational prices? 1 gram.
mean, we're talking high end because even with a brand birthday cake, it could be low grade grow or high grade grow. So
well, I mean, like I've already looked at the gram, and it's smalls. I mean, like it's not bigs. Like these aren't it's not one nugget. It's just dinky little nuggets. And I weighed it. It was 1.1 grams, so at least it was a fat gram. How much do you think 1 gram of birthday cake is in Illinois?
Popcorn bud, imagine probably $15.
$20, and that's before the taxes. And the taxes were $2, plus another 60 cents for the local, plus 60 cents for the city, plus a sales tax of $1.80. So it was $25 for the gram.
Wow.
Yep. And then it was smalls. And then meanwhile at home, I can be like, I can just go back to the home grow, and it's not going to be smalls or nothing like that. And the terp profile is better too. And so like the nose just isn't very, very nice, but it smoked well. I mean, it looks nice still.
Again, at least you and I can have this comparison because we've been doing this for so long around the plant, but a new consumer is not going to know. A new consumer is not going to know what quality is or could be, because that's just horrible. I feel bad for your people. I feel bad for patients in that area. It's expensive to have medicine.
That would be very expensive to have medicine. Now, again, that gram I still think would have been $20 if I would have used my medical card and not gone to the adult use place. But $20 for a gram of medicine, that's still a really high price,
Damn.
Bought birthday cake outdoor here for $85 an ounce.
That's good.
This was 1/28 of that for $25.
But that's Oklahoma too. That's where the bar is set low to get into the industry, and this is where it reflects.
That's where the producers are. That's where the supply is. I mean, that's really where the market should be. If people were able to actually grow and supply the streets with the necessary amount of cannabis.
Like I told you before, here in Washington, when it was medical, it was like a great, just capitalistic, organic bartering scene where people would walk in, you could sample wares, you could sample before I commit to a whole ounce or whatever. There was it was there, and people would give you samples too because it was so abundant. When you have a market so flooded with the plant, and where people figure out in their own as an entity what it costs to make it, and that's. But then when you add, like, say, with the 502 structure with the 25% tax on top of it, how do I?
Oh yeah, the taxes were the 25% of the $20 gram. Yeah. But man, that's going to be coming to states like New Jersey, and that's going to be coming to states like New York. New York dropped its bill then too, and New York, it looks like it's going to have. New York's bill is similar to New Jersey's and different from Illinois in the respect that New York's bill is thin. It's only like 110, 120 pages. So like where they cover all the licenses, including its application aspect, it was only like 5 pages in the middle of the law. So we're going to be building some new pages for the Cannabis Industry Lawyer website. Don't forget to head over there. And they have the adult use processor license, a small business cooperative license, an adult use distributor, retail dispensary, microbusiness, delivery, and nursery, and then of course then cultivation. So it's going to be interesting to see how New York takes this very tiny little piece of law and then they assign all the responsibilities to the administrative wing. How is that going to work its way out? So like New York's application window, assume that they passed this tiny bill that they have currently. It might take over a year. Because then they're going to have to do all the administrative rulemaking, then they're going to have to comment on it, and then they're going to have those effective rules, and then they'd have an application date. So it's going to be interesting to see how New York shapes up, and New Jersey probably also.
And these processes are not speedy. I mean, even once the M.O.R.E Act passes, if it passes, legalization is not there, right? We're not going to be, okay, it's all good now. Everybody go home. We're done.
No, it's not going to be like that. So like, do you think that there's a scientific basics at all for these types of crazy structures and these really weird regulations that push the price of this up into the stratosphere?
Greed's part of it, but the ignorance, right? Like today we're going to talk to Dr. Ethan Russo, and he can tell us. We can talk about the endocannabinoid system, like this thing that's in our body. We don't have the meth system; we have an endocannabinoid system. The plant's part of us, man. I give props to Trump, though. Respect for the clemencies, pardons that just happened yesterday. There were 4 very important ones, in my opinion.
Who did he grant clemency to?
So Michael Peltier is the big one for me because he's a goddamn quadriplegic. like when they arrested this man who can't walk as a crime lord, is probably the most horrendous, mind blowing thing, right? And then the other one is, fuck, dude, I think it was he's on his like 20 some odd term, in the 80s, like when more evil was alive, but
a lot more evil, a lot more lies.
But unfortunately, Lance, our buddy Lance, is still serving time, right? And also Luke Scarmozo. So, these are unfortunately still, it's not a perfect situation, perfect world, but there's some good that did happen yesterday. So there's that.
Yeah, Little Wayne got one too, right?
Yeah, shit, man. Fucking Kodak Black did too. Like people like
Kodak Black got one?
Yeah.
Wow. Platinum plan of former President Donald Trump. We get to say that now, which is great. And Biden's new Health and Human Services Director is the first trans person I think ever appointed. And then also she's been an advocate of medical cannabis. I saw that was reported on Marijuana Moment.
Well, I think a lot of this cabinet right now, they are going to look at the scientific facts, right? We're going to look at the actual, not the makes you feel like a bat or makes white women want to have sex with black men. None of this racist slanted bullshit. Right. It's going to be the truth now. So, I think we're not done, right? Like when I watched the inauguration, dude, I'm not going to lie, I cried like a little bitch because I was moved, not because of Biden, but because of there's a chance with the M.O.R.E. Act. There's an actual freaking chance we can do something, but people need to push.
It's going to pass immediately. I think the M.O.R.E. Act will pass in 2026 or something like that. But I mean, I was just in Detroit working on because they're going to have an application window. So we signed up a new client out there, and like even Michigan is, while it is a better user experience for buying weed, much better to buy weed there. Still a $20 gram, and there's not that many dispensaries, and then the people that have it are just they're really, really wealthy, and so
or the law enforcement, at least in Michigan, that it's slanted politics, right? It's what's fucked up about America, but there's a chance, right? There's at least 80 million non-assholes.
Yeah, 81 million. Well, come on, I'm sure that people that voted for Biden are assholes too. But the other big news that came out was the USDA's hemp thing, and that turned into a piece that I did. And I didn't explain the wall and processing thing that the USDA did in their rule. I'll probably do a follow-up on that. I also missed the 30-day testing window and more of a flexible standard that they're using and something. But it was a much better final rule for the USDA hemp program, which is great. So.
Well, there's more of a structure now, right? So yeah, it's gonna be a great year, I think, overall, though, bro, for weed.
Well, yeah, especially if Corona leaves, that'd be great. I mean, it ground my business to a halt. It pretty much turned Illinois into just a parking lot because everybody applied and then nothing happened.
I miss events, and I think we'll get there. It's still gonna be another year, though. Once everybody gets vaccinated and people don't think Bill Gates is trying to put a freaking microchip in their skin or some bullshit. We'll get through this.
People have believed crackpot theories since time immemorial, and people will continue to believe crackpot theories until time immemorial. Some people are just nuts.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. But who's not nuts? We got some pretty smart guests.
We do. We have some very non-nuts guests that are smart. So smart that they have figured out how to take a hydrophobic substance and dissolve it into water.
Man, oh man, I tell you what, the news has been just ridiculous out of Illinois. Ridiculous.
You guys got some new licenses, right? Or something, letters been sent out?
Both. So some people have won transportation license provisionally because that was an unlimited over-the-line thing. Some people have been issued 10-day notices for transporters. Some people have been issued disqualification notices. And, if you're joining us and you have an application in Illinois for the Department of Agriculture, smash those likes and hit subscribe. And you're going to want to stick around until the end of the news summary because we're having a webinar, our first one tomorrow, because that's really important to figure out how to respond to these. The 10-day notices that Illinois served are different than the 10-day notices that they've done so far. They're complex. They are ambiguous and they're vast, so vast that they're trying to knock people like me out. All the consultants, because we're going to have bandwidth issues. Because I'm reviewing it, I'm like, it could take me 10 to 20 hours to do this. Well, when they issue the 10-day notice, you calendar it, and so it's due next Friday. I'm a human being. I'm not going to work for more than 10 hours a day. Gosh darn it. And I'm not going to work for free. And so there's only so many people that have that type of skill set that can go through and do it. So a lot of the people that have applied are probably going to have to do a lot of their own legwork. And that's why you should definitely tune in to the webinar tomorrow.
Why would it be so big? Like, who's behind that? What is there a body, a governing body is behind this? Or
the Illinois Department of Agriculture.
Oh. So are they basing this model off of something else, like a like thing, or is it just like, let's just make up some new shit, make it harder for people to get involved?
Well, again, you have to understand that the enterprise value of one of these craft grower licenses, when fully valued, is probably between $25 and $30 million. So you don't want to just give a $25 to $30 million company to anybody. But then, like, it was just everybody got hit. So I'm talking to consultants from all over the country, and everybody's getting hit with stuff. And they're like, and then like the real frustrating thing is, people like me that have done more than one application are getting different results based on who it was awarded to. So it's like, this guy's missing 1, this guy's missing 0, this guy's missing 2 and 3, and you're like, what?
And I'm pretty sure, being that you did the same things, they're all gonna be, I mean, they're parallel, they're gonna be matching.
So one guy got social equity on his grower app, but not on his transporter app, and I'm like, huh? Wait, what? And then some of them get like, and that's just how it goes. But they were all over the map. The only place they really weren't were in the application exhibits in which your team was not involved. So like, if it didn't come down to like who you had on your team to determine how well you could farm, or like how good your organizational crap is. But then a lot of it was just like, and the frustrating thing is, so then you start looking into it because they provide citations, and then the citations are actually in the application, and you're like, okay, how do I tell you that it's not missing, even though you say it's missing?
But is this KPMG?
Yes.
Why are they still involved in this shit, though? I mean, like, this is like...
No. It reads like the biggest litigation cluster F that I can like possibly imagine. As I'm saying, like, because like everybody's getting hit. And so like my guy in Michigan and my guy in Colorado that I deal with that have winners in the dispensary round, like Perfect Apps, they're all getting hit, and they're like, what? And I'm like, and so it's extremely frustrating, and it's all due next Friday. And so that's why you absolutely want to tune in to the webinar. If you want to sign up for the webinar, you can head over to our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/collateral base, where we're actually live right now. So I have to be kind of careful. But there's a landing page there that you can sign up for it. And then you can sign up for that on this 10-day notice deficiency webinar. It's going to be our first webinar that we do on Zoom. So we do this on StreamYard. I'm hoping that I can still do a webinar, you know?
I think Zoom will be all right for you, dude. You'll be fine, and it's pretty easy. They just crash. What's up with the over here, besides in your neck of the woods as well? Springfield receiving $80K from Illinois. Like, what is this? The social equity? Is this the social equity stuff coming out?
Oh yeah, like social equity money starting to flow in Illinois. There was like $31 million handed out. There was a lot of great contracts handed out. Some, of course, a lot of them went to insiders. Some of them were for the low couple million. I think the biggest one that I saw was like 2.5 million.
Damn.
But that's the social equity at work. And so that social equity tax dollar has hit the benefit before any licenses are handed out. And again, getting back to the point of the social equity is to bring down and reduce the barriers to entry to the cannabis market. Have you seen the frickin' application for this is their entry model grow, right? Their entry model grows a $25 to $30 million enterprise. Damn. And they aren't going to give it to anybody. The applications are 1,000 flipping pages long. And then you get a notice of deficiency that makes 0 sense and that are completely different depending on where you look.
You know, yeah. But you know how I joke about regulation, how I'm always like, it's probably somebody that just did this. All right, we're going to do this, right? But it's probably not. It's more like somebody doing this. All right, I got 1,000 pages we're going to work on. Because if someone did this, it would be like, hey, we're just going to have like 3 rules.
That's one of the problems, and so join us for that webinar tomorrow, and then we will be reading tea leaves. And so the tea leaves will help us understand how to respond to this. And so is it really, drug induced? Is it, I like to think it's complexity induced. And our guest today is going to have some talking about complexity because we have options contracts and futures contracts to discuss. However, much like options and futures contracts, there are models of math that are involved probably in the scoring that KPMG came up with. These people have no idea what the industry is, but they can model numbers fairly well. And so they've probably created some algorithms. Those algorithms all got tripped, or maybe it's just they flagged it all randomly, clearly, and then it's just to see if people respond, just to weed them.
It can't be an algorithm. It's got to be human error, man. Because if it was a software related thing, either it would do good or just shit on you every freaking time. It's not gonna give you half and half. You know what I mean? It's gonna
if you give the same result to the machine, it's not going to give you two different answers.
No, man.
You don't know. I mean, we'd have to see. I mean, maybe it's a random number generator. But hey, and so that's the news out of Illinois, man. What's going on anywhere else? I've just been kind of sucked into a vortex.
Well, check this out. I found where I want to live next. There's going to be a large marijuana grow site that gets okay for Shawwalker factory. It's also going to have 150 new apartments above it.
What's this?
Someplace in Muskegon.
Muskegon where?
What is that? Michigan.
Muskegon, Michigan is going to have a mixed-use commercial building where you can live above weed growing.
I'm excited for that one, dude. I really want to move there. Here
I want to see the zoning commission meeting for the special use permit where it's like, and how close are you to residential real estate? Same building. It's just weed, take the elevator to 2 apartments. That violates the setback of 1,000 feet from a residence. That's why we're here. We want the special use. We would like a variance so that we're complying with these rules.
And then can you consume on premises? I mean, there's going to be so many.
Consumption Lounge. If you're joining us from Detroit, don't forget to subscribe, and then also get in touch with us over at cannabisindustrylawyer.com because we're helping people with the Consumption Lounge applications and also with the legacy license applications. Right now, we're making some charts. Oh man, this was one of the things that I had to spend 6 hours on yesterday. And if you tune in to the webinar tomorrow, you'll be able to see it because we're going to go over it. That's kind of how you score these types of applications. And we've created 32 pages. And that would be the scoring criteria for your craft grow license application. That is similar to other types of licenses in other competitive states. And then once you have that, now I can very quickly go through these 50-page tomes of narrative, some of which I have written, some of which I haven't written, to try to find these specific keywords because I'm going to be like, it's right there. It's right effing there. How can it be here? And I'm deficient on this measure.
Yeah. Well, again, human. It's got to be humans. Did you see also with the Detroit, the city opens applications for? So this is from the actual city, Detroit Legacy Cannabis Certification.
That's right. You can start your process to get certified as a Detroit Legacy applicant right now. And you should, because we also have to pre-qualify you with the state. And then eventually, I believe in April, the application window will begin. And so we really want to have you all taken care of in the next 2 months. So yeah, you should really get in there. I mean, I'm going to have to check with some of the staff attorneys to see where the chart is on that. But yeah, Detroit, man.